Hey, Strong Girls. I'm Molly Herford, sports journalist, ultra runner, cyclist, and author, and founder of Strong Girl Publishing.
And I'm Dr. Sasha, executive director of Yellow Running Shoes, a researcher, engineer, elite runner, and your BFF who's breaking down the science of smashing barriers in women's sports.
Think of us as the intersection of science and culture for women and girls in sport. Each week, we'll dissect the latest headlines and cutting edge research on female athletes,
Debunk myths about girls in sport. Talk about how hormones affect performance at every age, to the latest research in sports science around mental performance, nutrition, equipment, and so much more.
And we'll spotlight badass girls and women who are rewriting the rules of the game, sometimes literally.
Expect it to be nerdy,
And occasionally TMI.
but it will always be honest.
Whether you're a strong girl yourself or you're raising one, this show is for you. Welcome to Strong Girl Talk,
where sports science meets sisterhood.
All right, welcome back to Strong Girl Talk. I'm Molly Herford, joined by my incredible co-host, Dr. Sasha Galish. Sasha, how is it going today?
I just took like a peek out the window and it's like that beautiful time of year with the light and like the reds and the yellows. Like, Molly, I love this. It makes me like, I always try to bring in like the Brené Brown ordinary moment of joy. And I was like, oh, as we started, I'm just having this like ordinary moment of joy. There's like beautiful light. My incredible friend is here. We're doing amazing things. Like, oh, how are you?
Uh, Good on that note. Yeah, I mean, if I sound a little bit slurred to anyone, it's because I had some minor lip surgery, so I'm still recovering from that. But otherwise, it's funny. Actually, before we got on the call, I was taking the dog out in the backyard and I stood out back for a second and kind of had that exact same reflection as you, just like looking up at the sky. It's a beautiful day, and yeah, perfect time of year, great temperature, and just really, really nice time to be outside. So, although I went with more of the Kurt Vonnegut, if this isn't nice, I don't know what is, as my quote that I thought of. So,
Oh my gosh, I love his writing. Yeah, okay.
so good.
Yeah,
So I love that we both had like similar experiences there. Um,
yeah.
Also, you know what's good? Your journal,
Oh,
Unstoppable, is coming out in just a couple of short weeks. So November 20th, pre-orders are open for it now. I am so excited that we finally get to do a project like this together. One of very many, obviously, to come.
obviously.
Obviously. But let's talk about why this journal. I want to go way back and talk about like the impetus for this journal because I know this is like while we kind of got this moving quickly for us, this has been like over a decade in the making for you. So
I'm gonna go with 10 years just because I was like, I don't want to age myself. But
it does say you
um
started your advanced coaching diploma in 2013 though. So
you're not wrong. And I did finish in 2014. So like, okay, fine. So in the winter of 2014, as I was finishing up my advanced coaching diploma, we had to do this project. And I at the time was coaching 7 year olds. I had this like I had 7 year olds, prime numbers, square 49. And it was around the time when Michael Phelps was really talking about mental performance, right? And so if you remember back in the Olympics when his like goggles fell off, like he had practiced that. Like his coach, and this sounds mean, but like this does need to happen, would like rip his goggles off right before he was like starting training, or would like fill them with water, which I don't know how you do that without like sort of having a wrestling match with a swimmer. But anyways, but this idea that like we didn't talk about these things, and I was like, well, if we aren't talking about it at the elite level, like we're for sure not talking about it at, the entry level. And so I was like, well, I just want to have kids have their best days. And so like that's the genesis of the project. It was called My Best Day. And we just I asked some very simple questions about like getting enough sleep and eating breakfast and getting up on time. And when we talked about arriving on time, it wasn't like, oh, I need you to figure out that you need to be here at 8:15, but like, hey, mom and dad, I've noticed that like sometimes we're late. When do we need to leave to get here on time? And just sort of teaching them those things. And then in alpine skiing, of course, I was coaching Saturday and Sunday, and it was like, let's make sure that your boots are dry and mitts are dry on Sunday, because if they're not dry, nobody's having fun on Sunday. So yeah, it was just this like, I want everybody to have their best day. And it's, the like evolution of it was then I got into high performance sport. And the first person I hired was a mental performance coach before I hired my like technical tactical running coach.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. So what made you make that decision? I mean, obviously you've done the work, but like what was your like, did you know that you had like a big mental barrier that you needed to work on before you could get into the technical stuff?
No, it's just that it's part of it. Like, why wouldn't you have a brain coach if you have a coach for your feet and legs? Like, we both run. Like, I call them our leg coaches, right? Like, I have a strength coach who like focused on my strength. I had someone who was focused on my workouts. And I was like, well, why wouldn't I also have a brain coach? So, through that journey, I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna actually do this, the first thing I need to do is hire a brain coach. So, Dr. Beth McCharles, and then maybe biasing the story and like why it happened a little bit is she was my mentor during the advanced coaching diploma. And through the stories that she was telling me about the high performance athletes that she was working with, I was like, like everybody need this. And that is really actually now the genesis of the journal is that everybody needs a mental performance coach, but it's actually way simpler. Like I was thinking about it in terms of the way that we're I don't know what the right word is, but pathologizing mental health and well-being, and it's always so much on the negative, right? It's like, well, let's get to the clinical, and it's like, whoa, hold up. It doesn't have to be that complicated, right? And in fact, if we want to create flourishing and thriving environments for athletes, like we have to help them create them, and part of that is helping them with their mental performance tools and skills. And really putting then my coach hat on and thinking about being out on the snow with the 7-year-olds, there's no time to talk about that, right? Like, so then how do you make something easy that coaches can easily give to athletes, parents and caregivers can easily implement that that isn't like so demanding? So I sent you a photo of this over the weekend. So I had ordered 10 different youth athlete journals. And the overwhelming thing that I recognized, that they were overwhelming. There's just too much information. I wanted it to be so simple, right? That it was just like, okay, this is easy, and now I'm a better version of myself, and I train better and compete better and compete better.
Hmm. No, you're totally right. And I think it also leans into what we talk about all the time with like being strength based rather than
Yeah.
you're right. Like you can go into all of the negatives and the sticking points and the problems that you have in competition, or like, and it's not that this journal shies away from like what can you do better and like, where do you need to improve and like, oh, you're not feeling good. Like, okay, let's look into that. But it does really kind of focus on more of like this strength-based mindset. So talk to me a little bit about kind of the importance of that versus the alternative.
Sure. And actually, this really actually goes back to being a ski coach. So when you're coaching 7-year-olds, right? So it was always a recap of what you were doing, because otherwise they would go in at like lunch or end of the day. Mom and dad or caregivers are like, "Hey, what'd you work on today?" Yeah, nothing. Stuff. And so, at that age, it's often like pole plant, like moving forward, we skied the steeps. And I always did this with like video as a coach is, okay, tell me all the things that you like about what you see on the video. Because it's so easy as an athlete when you throw a video or a photo up to like the negativity bias to like come out and be like, well, this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong. It's like, well, but there's so much good here and we should like build from the strengths. And so I always started with like, okay, tell me one thing you really liked about today. And then not one thing you did wrong, but like, what are you working on? How do you want to make it better? And so that's very much how the journal is framed around like, what's today's date? Like, what are you most excited about today? Right? Like, why are you excited? What are you expecting to have fun doing? Like, how are you going to play? And then also, like, I think one of the things that if I was to go back now and coach is how do I have check-ins with athletes to ask them, like, hey, what are you afraid about or what makes you nervous? Right. And so I think we talked about this on a previous podcast, or we just talked about it at some point that, in our head, our fears are really, 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 really big. And then when we talk big conversations, when we talk about them out loud, like just how much easier they are, but we don't also normalize how do we have that conversation of like, hey, what's making you nervous?
Ooh, yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love it. Okay, so can we just like also step back and explain
Yeah.
what exactly this journal contains? Because I feel like I just
Words.
like alluded, yeah, words. I feel like I just alluded to like the
Yeah.
pages, but we should actually describe what the pages are.
And I was like, how do I answer this question? And so, I mean, it's divided into three sections, right? And, you did a great job at helping me walk through my thinking, right? Like, there's this giant idea in my head, but it has to make sense to other people and not just inside my head. So, the first section's really understanding who you are as an athlete. Like, why do you love the sport that you do? What position do you play? What makes you most excited to go to practice? What makes you not want to go to practice? Um, you
Now,
know,
why do we want this section in there? Because actually, this was the section that like not confused me the most, but like surprised me the most. Because you could have just jumped right into like
totally.
the daily practice, the competition side of things, but like, why does the athlete need to do this? Because like theoretically, an athlete knows why they are an athlete or do sport, or do they? Dun dun dun.
We need dramatic music in the background.
Hmm.
It's that and also understanding where you're your best self and where you're going to have challenging moments. And so it's kind of, I talk about the word excellence a lot. It's an interesting word. It's got some positive connotations and negative connotations, but the point is we all inherently know what excellence means, but if we have to give a definition of it, it's really hard. And so, similarly, if we had to tell people why we love going to practice and why we love our sport, we might struggle with that. And so, as kids' brains are developing, how do we give them simple prompts and tools so that they can have that conversation with themselves to be like, oh, oh, that's interesting. I didn't actually know that that's maybe one of the reasons that I love going there. Like maybe it's about putting your uniform on. I love I think it's the 11-point fun index and like one of the things is swag, right? Like I love a good swag, right? How do we help kids be like, "Oh yeah, I love a good swag," right? And what other things make sport really fun for you? And then sometimes kids really struggle with understanding why they don't want to go to practice, right? And so how do we give them a safe, private space for them to be able to have that conversation with themselves to start so that maybe they can have conversations with their teammates or their coaches or their parents and caregivers to be like, this makes me nervous or this makes me uncomfortable. Like it opens up an avenue for them to be the best version of themselves because now they have the tools to articulate what they're thinking.
No, I really like it, and I think it's a really good one for even for parents to see how their kids fill this out because I think you're gonna learn a lot about your kid from this if you do have kind of younger kids, and I think if you are like an older athlete, it's also a great one to fill out because I mean, God knows, like I drifted so much, even as an adult in sport, and like still honestly like change my reasons for doing it change, my motivations change, my like what I want to do changes. So I think it is like a really good like thing to get in the habit of doing and step back and do that. And there's a reason where the point of this journal isn't just that you do it one and done. And we're going to talk about recurring or repetitive journaling and why it's important in a second. But I think the cool thing is thinking about like doing this every season because you are going to change as an athlete from season to season. Like the stuff that made you tick may not in 6 months. So I think it's a really cool thing to revisit. So you don't get stuck just in this like hamster wheel of always doing the same thing and like not feeling great about it.
Well, and then later on, maybe you show up differently for different sports, and maybe what lights you up at one sport shuts you down in another one. And so, how do you tease that out for yourself so that you can understand that? Because again, it's like kids are developing emotions and developing, their brains are developing. So like, let's help them be able to actually do that.
Oh, love it. Love it. Okay, so that's the opening section. Then we get into the practice section to talk about what all is in this section and let's talk about why is doing this every practice important because I think a lot of people would look at this and be like, oh, like I'll just do this once and like cool, I figured out practice, like done. But that is not the point.
And practice, I hope, with whatever you're doing changes over time as well. But the section's divided into two parts. So let's talk about the first part that you mentioned. So this like daily check-in of like just before you work out or practice or train or however what you want to call it, like what's making you excited? What are you a little nervous about? What's your feeling going into it? And this is the one for me that's actually like why this is really important. And I think if I was to do this now as a teenager, is probably where I would start. Is like, how am I feeling today? Oh, I'm feeling stressed out. I'm stressed out because I have a math exam tomorrow. Well, I need to park my math exam as I go to track practice. And now I can be excited. I can go back up to the first question and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see my friends. So that like in the back of my head, I'm not thinking about my math test. What am I nervous about? Oh, well, so okay. So back then it would have been 10 by 400. Now it's 20 by 400 for me. But back then it would have been like, oh, I'm a little bit nervous to do 10 by 400. Like, am I going to make it through the practice? And so I could then say to my coach, like, ah, no, today's 10 by 400. And maybe the last time I didn't finish it well, or, I struggled to get through, this. Often the fifth and sixth intervals were challenging for me. So like I now all of a sudden I can have that conversation so that I can get better. And then after practice, like what went well, right? And so hopefully it's like, oh, you know what? You can now tie it back to almost that goal. I ran that fifth and sixth interval really well. And even if 9 and 10 don't go well, it doesn't matter. That wasn't your goal, right? Like the goal for today was to be able to do this. And then rate your mood out of 10. And part of that, there's two things behind that in particular. One is um, to notice that actually moving helps us have better mental health. But two, as a check-in, is if you're feeling worse after practice, that's a little bit of like a yellow flag on the play to check in with yourself to ask why. And that might be having a conversation just with yourself. Like maybe it's time for you to switch sports, maybe it's time for you to switch teams, maybe it's time to have a conversation with people. Like there's so many questions, and I will make sure that there are resources on stronggirlpublishing.com/unstoppable when it comes out so people have access to these. I'll also have tools for parents and coaches so you can talk to athletes about the journal without violating their privacy, but really to help create this autonomy within athletes. I think what's made me really unique coming back as a high performance athlete was I had that mindset, but I had that because of my coaching lens. And we don't train that in athletes. And it helps with injury. Like, oh, you know what? I felt like a 7 today because I've got this like niggle in my foot. Oh, I should talk to someone. Or, I feel worse after because like my hamstrings are so tight, which for 400s would happen to me, that like this isn't, so maybe I need to change my stride. So it was just this idea of like connecting with the people around you, creating some mastery and creating some autonomy for the athletes.
I love it. I love it. And the other note I wanted to add about the ranking system or the rating system is the nice thing with that is it's really easy to then flip back through the book and
Yeah.
see the ratings and like be able to make the connections. And I mean, while anyone can use this, I especially think about like teen girls, for example, using this. And you know what? This can actually really help. You can start kind of seeing like where maybe in your cycle we're changing how we feel at practice and like you're going to start noticing patterns. And I think like once you can see, oh, hey, here I had like a set of, sixes out of tens. Okay,
Yeah.
then I can go back and read them and like go into them a bit more, but it's hard to really start making connections if you don't have that one data
Yeah.
point that you can kind of use as your hook. So I love that.
Wholeheartedly agree. And actually to the point, like I unstoppable finding flow with flow. Like I've already like I'm so excited about the next one. Anyways,
Oh yeah.
let's focus on this one. So part two of practice, and this is I took this from Atul Gawande's work. So Atul Gawande is, I think he's a Surgeon General in the US right now. He's an incredibly intelligent human. He's a surgeon. He has a great TED Talk on if you want to get better at something, hire a coach. But he also has this book called Checklist Manifesto.
So good.
And
Love
you
it.
love it. I know. I was like, you,
Obviously.
and like, obviously you and I like love a good checklist. And, I think we've like lost the art of creating checklists. And I think, okay, one, like, I love writing checklists and like posting them on social media to be like, oh, are you satisfied with like that? And also they can be fun and creative, but sometimes you also just don't know what to pack or where to start. So I just wanted to create a really easy tool of like, hey, this is like weather that we expect. So like pretty like standard like hot and sunny, rainy and windy, no, rainy and cold, and then cold and windy, and then a one for weather we just sort of didn't think of wherever you might live. But just making it easier to be like, oh, I need to pack this, this, this. So then you can turn to that page, whatever the weather is, and like pack your bag either the night before or the morning of, depending on the type of person that you are. But then I would often forget my socks and my sports bra. So those two things would be incredibly helpful to not forget.
Very important as it turns out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Socks more so in high school than sports bra, but yes.
yeah. I obviously, yeah, checklist fanatic over here. Love it. And I think the handwriting element is really
Yeah.
important in, oh God, I'm gonna sound so old when I say this. In this age of AI that we're in, it's really easy to ask ChatGPT to come up with a checklist for you, and it does very quickly. And often it's actually a pretty good checklist, to be honest. But because you didn't actually have to think about it and even type it, let alone write it out by hand, you're much less likely to actually do the things on the checklist or actually remember the things on the checklist. Whereas writing it down, it gets into your brain. So,
Well, and actually use ChatGPT, right? Like I I not like as an educator, I don't care which way you start. Like start whatever which way works for you. But maybe ChatGPT also like reminds you of something that like you otherwise would have forgotten. So like write it down or ask ChatGPT and then write it down. And then the best part about AI is the iteration. So like have a conversation with it about like things that you may not have like remembered. I mean, I'm thinking about the snack part. Oh, sorry. I'm so excited about Power Up. I had a great conversation with Stevie Lynn in the background. Um, and it's like, oh, what I like these foods. Like, what are other like pre and post race or post practice snacks that I can have?
hmm yes. Side note, Power Up is also out November 11th. So if you haven't pre-ordered that, we will include a link to that in the show notes. I'm so
Oh,
excited for that.
do you want to have an excited contest? Because like I don't know who's I mean, you're definitely like you're an author, okay. So like you're definitely more excited, but like, oh my
Uh,
gosh, it's just so good.
I've also had many, many books. So I think I actually really do struggle to like turn my stoke levels up on stuff because I've done it a lot of times and I should be way more excited than I actually am.
I mean, to
Um,
be fair, your lip is sore, so like you can't really eat right now, so it's
it's
like kind of
true.
mean.
Yeah, I know. Every time I think about food, I'm just like, oh.
Oh,
Tell you, that's
yeah,
actually the hardest part, to be
totally.
completely honest, is like I love eating so much and to, yeah, have to like think really hard about what I'm eating. And like I've been on soft food now for like a week and I'm getting really tired of it. I want tortilla chips. Um, so yeah, to be like talking about food and stuff. I was actually like for Power Up, I like had all these grand plans of doing a couple like not quite like day in the life, but like I eat a
Oh
lot of
no, you
food. So
cannot do
like
that right now.
no, but like I did want to be like, oh, here's, like my post-workout meal and
Yeah.
like it's massive and like, here's what I'm like using as doing kind of a bit of that with it and I was going to start it last week and I have not been able to do so because it would just be like and another Wendy's Frosty and another Wendy's Frosty. Oh, look,
For the
a Wendy's Frosty.
For the record, I did see it on social media. They're massive. She buys all the big sizes.
Yeah, and many of them. They keep
Yeah.
great in the freezer, just everyone FYI. If
I
you're
do like me a
in
Wendy's
this,
Frosty.
I love them. They're so good. Really want one right now because frankly, my lip is really hurting because I've been on a lot of calls today. Um,
Oh, sorry. And now I'm talking. And I'm making you do this podcast. But Wendy's Frosty, actually not a bad post-practice snack, not gonna lie.
totally great. I mean, yeah, I like this is not the first time I've had this issue, and frankly, like they are really like my biggest panic whenever I have the situation is like, yes, I can like drink protein powder, blah, blah, blah. But like my biggest fear is like not getting enough calories. And they are a
Yeah,
very easy way for me to make sure that I'm getting enough in because like because it's, this situation, sorry, we're like going really on a tangent here, but like my body is fine. So like there's no reason that I can't train except for like if I'm having like a split lip situation, but I'm not in that situation right now. So I'm training. So
right.
I do need to like really make sure I'm keeping calories up, which means, yeah, Wendy's Frosties. Um, but okay, that's enough about me and snacks. Pre-order Power Up. Let's talk about the competition section. You know, how are we thinking about this? How did you think about this? How is this different from the practice section? Because I mean, we do like to think that like practice is, you should be doing basically what you're doing for competition, but there are some slight differences here.
Like nerves. Um, so I mean I kind of think like competition, maybe I don't know if it's bifurcated. It's like maybe it's bifurcated and then there's like this like few in the middle that just like don't care. It's like you're either really excited or you're really nervous, right? And so, but how do you channel that, right? Like that's what makes it different than practice. So again, similarly to the practice section, the competition section has checklists as well because you do need to pack your uniform, which oh my gosh, I've forgotten to do. Anyways, so it's a little bit, there's a few more questions, right? And the other thing is in the competition section, it really gets you to check in, like, what time does it start? And when do you maybe need to start warming up? And that for me really came about working with athletes in the sort of like, let's call it 12 to 15 range, where they were like, well, no, you tell me. And I was like, I'm happy to work with you, but I, our job as coaches, we've talked about this before, is to move from being the sage on the stage to the guide on the side. And I want to work with the athlete. And then, particularly in individual sports, as you get to competition, it's really about what you need on that day. And so maybe you're, for running sakes, like maybe your warm up jog lines up with somebody, but maybe it doesn't. And really learning this idea of autonomy and what you need. And so having this ability to like just ask yourself some really simple questions about what you might need. And, you know, there's questions about like, well, what do you need to relax? And I'm going back to Dr. Beth McCharles, who was, my brain coach and a good friend of mine. And I was actually talking about a story today of like something that really resonated with her when I was working through the coaching diploma. And if you're a team sport and you can be an individual sport that practices as a team, it might be really good to do this as a team together because what we were talking about is like, well, what do people need before? Like, what does relaxation look like? And for some people, that's putting music on and kind of lightly dancing. And for other people, that is like total shutdown and quiet. Because it's about what you need to show up and be your best to either play that game as part of the team or compete individually and for cross country, which is sort of part of a team, but individually. But it really allows you to like get to know yourself and your teammates in a really different way. And there's a bunch of pages in there. Try different things. Like you are at a point in your life, right? Between like 12 and 18 where it's really about trying to do different things to figure out like what works for you. And that can change depending on where you are in your life. That can also change depending on like just how you're feeling that day. And so similar to the practice sheets, there's like a clear like what's your mood today? Like and then, rate your mood out of 10. And then there's a little bit more to write before and after, but not much. I didn't want to make it too complicated.
No, but again, that comes back to we want this to be something that's really easy to do, where you don't put off doing it. Because I think like that's where the complicated journals and stuff get difficult, right? You're
Yeah,
like, oh, I don't have time to do this right now, so I'm going to do it later. And like, who does it later, right? Like the
right.
number of times even I put off doing, whether it's like my weekly review process or
Right.
whatever, like that thing gets pushed almost every week because it's lengthy.
Right. And so again, like it's about 1 minute, like 90 seconds, right? Like everyone's like, oh, you're processing so much information all the time as an athlete and particularly as a teenager, right? Like great TV show, Hormone Monster. I got one in perimenopause right now too. But like we're constantly processing information. And so this really was meant to be like this simple, fast way to like actually like capture that information that you're processing. And so, Molly, you and I are the same this way. We just talked about this before we started recording. Like, we ruminate on things. So, if you're a ruminator, this is a great way to get the rumination before competition out of your head, right? So, if you've got a kid that's constantly like, you can tell when a kid is ruminating. Like, it is just, they generally wear their emotions on their sleeves. This is a
Mhm.
great way to be like, hey, just like, here you go, a couple quick questions. They may want to talk to you about it, they may not, but it allows them to get out of that rumination cycle.
Absolutely, yeah. It's so good. It's such a fun little journal. I love that we
Thanks.
made it a size that fits in duffel bags, backpacks, wherever it is not unwieldy, so you can
Fit
easily
in my
travel
purse
with it.
today.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just with competitions, very similarly to practice, there's a checklist, right? And it's again a little bit more detailed and a little bit different for a competition. Because again, how you're gonna pack your bag to go to a competition is gonna be a little bit different, right? You need your competition uniform. In swimming, that might be a competition swimsuit. It might be different spikes or cleats or whatever, and might be a slightly different pair of skates or a slightly different hockey stick, ice or field. Right? Just making sure that you have that little bit of change so that you make sure you pack the right things and the extra socks.
Love it. And obviously, parents listening, clearly this is a good one to get for your kids because that way they don't forget their socks or their ice skates or their swimsuit or their goggles. Probably not all of those things at once, but anyway. We
I did show
digress.
up once to an engineering exam without a pencil or a calculator, so, it can happen.
It can happen. It does happen, but
Hmm.
not if you get the Unstoppable Journal. So pre-order it now. Again, strongerpublishing.com/unstoppable will take you to all of the resources and fun stuff, and of course, the actual journal itself. Yeah, anything else to add about what makes this great, why everyone should get it? I mean, I feel like we
You. I have to say thank you to you. It's been a turbulent time, and this has been a bright spot in my life. It's been so much fun to do this with you. You bring the best out in people.
oh,
Um,
oh,
Strong Girl
ditto.
Publishing just stands for so many good things. It stands for like what the future of sport can really be.
Oh, you just made my day, my week, my month. This has been really fun to work on. And, even as I like went through and, was looking at it and editing it and all that stuff, it got me really excited in how I think about how I'm practicing and stuff too, how I'm showing up for, I'm not really racing right now, but I am in training and, thinking about how I'm showing up for workouts and, making sure I have my socks. Yeah, so everyone should definitely check that out. I also should mention, just as we're kind of talking about practices and competitions and goals and all that fun stuff, we did also just kick off. It's under 1,000 days to LA 2028. So I did want to mention with Misha Powell, our author of Sprinting Through Setbacks, we are doing this 1,000 day challenge. So you can jump in anytime, obviously, but we are just under 990 days. Till LA 2028. But our thing is, having everyone call their own shot, their own, just about 3 year, just under 3 year goal, basically. So I'm really excited about it. They reminded me, as you said, as you were saying such nice things about Strong Girl Publishing. We recorded a quick thing with Misha over the weekend when I was at Christie Cross and she came and hung out at the tent. I said my shot that I wanted to call wasn't athletic. It was actually Strong Girl Publishing related, and it was by LA 2028. Like my 1,000 day goal is that I want this to actually be, most of what I do for work. I've been so excited that I've been able to pay out authors, and every time a book sells, the author actually makes money on it. But to be honest, like every book that I've written, all of the book sales, all of like the profits that I get are right into Strong Girl Publishing and making it function. So I would very much like it to actually be a real thing that's, you know, authors are getting paid, I'm getting paid, we're actually like able to reach more people and, that you can't reach more people unless you're growing as a business. So that's my 1,000 day challenge. So if you're listening to this, thank you so much for being along for the ride for that.
I'm I'm all here for your 1,000 day challenge, and I'm like absolutely thinking of all the ways we amplify and lift each other up to do this. Are you ready?
I'm like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't have told Sasha.
I want to run Leadville.
Listen to you. I love that for you. I hate that for you, but I love that for you. Like, couldn't hate it more. Having been there, been there and tried to do that. But I think you would be amazing. So I am obviously all in for you for that.
Thanks. Goal next summer is to be able to do a trail marathon, not competitively, not for a time, just to be able to do it. Morgan Rogers, you better be listening to this because like you're dragging me through this. Molly, you can come with us too, depending on like what your season is like. Um, but yeah, I
And
haven't thought
then,
about my 1,000 day professional goal, but I think, given our conversation before this, I think I owe you one in our next recording.
well, I said to Misha, my problem with the athletic goal is like my athletic life, and not in a bad way, but it's kind of on um like simmer, I guess. Like it's just on warm. It's good. I actually don't really like feel the need to call a big athletic shot because right now things are good. Like I'm comfortable with where I am as an athlete, who I am as an athlete. So pretty much everything I'm doing now is like exciting and fun and like I work really hard for it, but there's no like big
Oh.
looming thing that's really like, ooh, I need to like focus all in on this.
Oh, I'm not focusing all in on it. Let me just be very clear. This will not be an all in focus goal. This will be like the most casual, which is like weird, where I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna do a casual Leadville.
I mean, I appreciate that. I'm
Yeah.
here for that. Yeah, so I wanted my 1,000 day thing to be like very much like the thing that I'm all in on. So,
Mm.
but I think for you, like actually like Leadville as your 1,000 day like totally makes sense because of where you currently are with like your recovery and coming back from injury, and that's like such a good one. So it really like sets you up for a very successful like re-entry into
And
sport
if
and
I
where you're going next.
and if I don't make it, I don't make it, right? Like it's like, how do you set
100%.
something like, but finding that joy of just like moving through trails again. Like
Hmm.
that's the part. And I miss, okay, so I also miss really hard workouts, but like the second one was I miss trail running.
God, I will never miss really hard workouts. I'd
Oh,
be
I
great.
love them.
That is where you and I differ.
Mhm.
The reason
10
I
by
run,
200? Yes, please.
no, the reason I run 100 milers is because I hate a workout. Yeah,
So yeah, share with us your 1,000 day goals. Like we're pumped.
definitely. Yeah. So we'll include links to everything in the show notes. Thank you, as always, for listening, and we will catch you next time. Thanks so much for tuning into the Strong Girl Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely head over to wherever you listen to podcasts and rate, review, and of course, subscribe so you never miss another episode. And head over to stronggirlpublishing.com to check out all of the books by Strong Girl Publishing's authors, including Molly Herford, Misha Powell, and so many more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.